thank you for joining us today. My name is Sam Olukotun. I am a solutions engineer from CircleCI, and today I am joining Young Go, Vice President of Product at Katalon, and we're going to be talking about how to automate your testing and taking advantage of cloud DevOps. And all of this is around the idea of just helping us all make remote working a little bit easier. So just getting started here, a brief overview of our agenda. So I'm going to be doing a brief introduction into cloud DevOps, and then I'll give you a brief introduction as well into CircleCI and our platform. Then I'll be passing control over to Young, who's going to be talking about Katalon, and then talking a little bit about the integration between Katalon and CircleCI using the feature we call Orbs. So first off, let's just talk a little bit briefly about cloud DevOps in general. So why is cloud DevOps becoming such a big trend or becoming such a big deal in software in general? Well, right now we're seeing a lot of engineering teams looking for ways to reduce overhead in terms of how long it takes them to maintain infrastructure for their build pipelines. And we see cloud DevOps tools as being able to take advantage of this kind of need, because all of that infrastructure, all of maintaining that infrastructure is taken care of by the cloud DevOps, by the cloud tool provider. And so as a team of engineers yourself, you don't have to worry about taking care of all of these concerns in-house. So you don't need to manage you don't need to yourself manage all the servers or the databases or the entire pipeline that you're going to be using, needing to support your application development team. Furthermore, we found that cloud DevOps platforms tend to improve cost efficiency for teams. And we say this in terms of things like engineering time, for instance. If we take a team that's using Jenkins, which I tend to work with a lot, I see engineers who are coming from the Jenkins background say something like, yeah, like you're saying that a cloud platform is cost efficient, but Jenkins is free. However, what teams like that tend to miss, or the part of the equation that the teams don't put into calculation there, is the fact that the time that those engineers are spending maintaining that free, quote unquote, free pipeline, the time that you spend provisioning and setting up all that infrastructure, the time you spend doing upgrades, doing patches, maintaining bug fixes, all of that is engineering time that costs you something. That's time that your engineers could be spending doing other work, or actually spending time building features, doing bug fixes, writing code to help contribute to the product, as opposed to just maintaining infrastructure. Furthermore, teams that do longitudinal analysis of how much they're spending on just the platform expense in general tend to notice cost savings in terms of how they're built in the clouds as well. Because if you take something like AWS, for instance, when you're using compute on there, you only get billed for the time when your code is running on the platform. However, if you're maintaining your own infrastructure, you're paying for that platform in-house, you're maintaining all of that yourself for as long as that infrastructure is up and running. So we see things like just having the fact that you're able to use your engineers more efficiently, and you'll be able to pay only for resources when you're using them, combines to cost efficiency for some teams. In addition to that, being able to take your engineers and have them focus more on application development as opposed to infrastructure concerns, and also being able to reduce the amount of time you spend just provisioning servers, provisioning database. All of this allows you to move faster on the application development side, which in general for your business means that you'll be able to get to your market faster if you're not spending too much development time worrying about the DevOps side and doing infrastructure maintenance in-house for your team. And so one thing I want to talk about next is in terms of the challenges on the software testing side that using a cloud DevOps platform allows you to tackle. With the teams I've worked with, I see a wide range of feature benefits of why this is valuable to them. But one thing I keep seeing across multiple teams, like regardless of the size of the company or what kind of projects they're working with, this idea that there are 3 key features that you can get from cloud platforms in general that allows you to move or solve testing challenges on your projects. First of all is the idea of concurrency. When we talk about concurrency, we're talking about the ability to run multiple independent jobs at the same time using the same platform. So let's say I'm working on a big project for a company where I have a front-end app, a back-end app, and let's say I have an API layer going on at the same time. If we have 3 different teams working on these projects and they're all trying to push code or do tests at the same time, concurrency allows you to be running your test for your front-end project, for your back-end projects, and for your API all independently without having to wait for one another. With some other platforms that typically get maintained on-prem, we've seen teams that complain about the pain point of having to wait for the build to finish before another build can finish, before another build or test can start. With concurrency, you don't have to worry about that because you can run all those jobs at the same time. Another feature that you can take advantage of in terms of just solving testing challenges is the idea of parallelism. So this is where you can split one particular job and then run that test job across multiple nodes. The idea being that this allows you to get through the testing, your test suite a little bit faster. So let's say, for instance, if we go back to this example where I have like the front end app, a back end app, and an API app, I can take parallelism comes into play when I'm testing my front end app, for instance. And let's say I have long running tests on the front end side, I can take that one test suite and split it across multiple nodes. And so instead of having my test suite taking an hour to run, for instance, the fact that it's now running in parallel on parallel nodes might allow it to run in 25, 30 minutes. So that shortens the time and allows me to go through my test suite a little bit faster. Another thing that comes into play when you're trying to solve testing challenges is the idea of scalability. So as your projects get bigger, as you add more people to the team, as you start to need more compute, more storage, more memory, how quickly and how easy, how convenient, how efficiently can you get to that new level of resource management or resource utilization that you need? With a lot of cloud platforms, a lot of this scalability of scaling operations happens in terms of it's a click of a button, it's one configuration setting you change on the UI, and it allows you to quickly go from where you are to where you need to be without having to do the work of provisioning all the hardware again, or going back to that whole step of doing this manual work in order to set up the pipeline that you need for your team to run the DevOps concerns. So when it comes to testing and taking advantage of cloud DevOps platforms, these are three big benefits that I've seen across multiple teams, that these, regardless of their concerns, regardless of what app they're building or the size of the teams, these are features that really end up bringing value to them in terms of how quickly they can get through their test and how much adoption they see across their teams in terms of their testing best practices. And so now I want to switch gear a little bit and talk about CircleCI and how we play into this role of the cloud DevOps platforms. We as a company, we focus mostly on CI/CD. And so at this point, just to go through a little bit of why would people even be interested in, or why would you care about CI/CD? So CI/CD itself plays into a little bit of the discussion we've had just now, which is the fact that having your CI/CD platform in place allows you to implement faster release cycles. And the whole idea here is the fact that if you're testing, linting, building, deploying code automatically as soon as things hit your code repository, you don't have to manually go through each one of these steps. And that allows you to go through all your deployment cycles a little bit faster if those things are running independently of the engineers who are writing the code themselves. Furthermore, the fact that all of your testing, your linting, your security scans, all your application concerns, your deployment concerns can be built into your pipeline and automatically run without manual intervention also allows you to push code and deploy with a peace of mind and knowing that you're not pushing any high-risk code out there, you're not pushing anything that's likely to break, and that in turn increases the quality of the product you're pushing and minimizes costs in terms of how much rework you're doing on code you've already pushed, how much time you're spending fixing bugs on features you've already pushed out, and in general, just being able to focus more on working on the applications and the features that actually drive value for your customers and allow your business to get more revenue because you're pushing more newer features as opposed to just fixing bugs on features you've written in the past. And so when we're talking about CI/CD, some of the practices and some of the best practices to put in place that allow you to actually get the benefits of using a CI/CD system, the fact that you need to merge code changes often. CI, continuous integration, really takes advantage of the fact that you can test smaller chunks of codes quicker. And if anything breaks in a smaller chunk of code that you've pushed, it's easier to find out why it failed and also to fix the failure, as opposed to if you spend if you do like a day's work or a week's worth of work, and then you try to integrate it into the master code base. If there's something broken, if you've done something wrong, there's a lot more code you have to get through now in order to restore it to a working state. So another thing you want to do is to make sure that you're running those automated tests to validate all your builds. So this goes back to that comment I made earlier about being able to relax with peace of mind, knowing that the code you're deploying is going to work. If you're automating tests on every commit or every push, and every time you try to merge code into your master branch, you know that all your tests have passed and they've run automatically, you can feel comfortable merging code knowing that there's a certain threshold of quality that you're not breaking or you're not going below when you're adding new features to your code base. And also just testing code, going back again to that whole idea of testing, you want to make sure that only code that gets the code that gets merged into your master branch, into your main production releases, is only the things that have already gone through the continuous integration cycle, code that you've already tested properly and validated that it doesn't break your builds and it passes all your test cases. And when you take all of these things into account and you're merging changes frequently into the release branch, it means that at any point in time, your release branch itself is guaranteed, and you have the peace of mind knowing that your release branch is in this state of being ready to release at any point in time. So you're not constantly having to go back and worry about bugs slipping into your release branch, bugs that could have been avoided or caught through automated testing in the continuous integration phase. So let's say you're taking advantage, you're implementing all of these best practices. What do you get in return? If you're running code, if you're writing small pieces of code and committing them in small chunks, if something fails, you're going to fail fast. So this is that whole idea of, instead of waiting a whole week before you find out that there's a bug in your code, if you check in and you run your test on code that you've written in the last 2 to 4 hours, for instance, if there's a bug in there, it fails right away, you know quickly where there's an error and you know how to go fix that. And also when it comes to resubmitting fixes or like fixing things that have already gone into production, having a system that automatically tests, does your builds, does your deploys, minimizes how much manual work you're doing in order to actually get fixes to your customer. So again, it speeds up. Just talking about, you might feel like I'm repeating the same words over and over again, but that's the whole key of continuous integration and continuous deployment. This whole idea that if you automate things, you can guarantee your quality at the end of your pipeline, because you're not spending time manually spending time on your platform, in your pipelines, trying to address all of these quality and security concerns on your product. And so that's a little bit more about the CI/CD philosophy in general. Talking about CircleCI now a little bit. As a company, we were founded in 2011, and right now we're about 300 employees spread across 5 continents. We're currently running over 1 million builds per day, which makes us one of the largest CI/CD platforms out there. And we support customers all the way from large names like Spotify, Stitch Fix, Cruise, all the way down to smaller startup companies that are usually using our platform more to just allow them to move in a more agile fashion. So this is just to say that we have experience supporting like large range of build volumes and build demands, and also being agile enough to provide features for any customer sizes that might be building a new product. And at CircleCI, we like to say that our mission is to make it as easy as possible to go from idea to delivery. Again, this is going back to that whole concept of, once you push your code into the repository, everything that happens in the middle, all the testing, the linting, the building, the deployment, all of those DevOps concerns, we automate that, and we take that away from you. So all you do is you focus more on writing your code, creating your idea, and making sure that idea gets delivered to your customers. At this point, I'd like to quickly, before we go into a demo, I want to show you CircleCI fits in terms of the software process. We sit right in between, like I mentioned earlier, your VCS, which is the code creation tools, as well as your deployment tools. So like your Heroku's, your Docker's, your AWS, you can think of CircleCI as the orchestration platform in the middle that allows you to take care of everything that, once you've written your code, anything you need to worry about before that code or that product gets into the hand of your customers, CircleCI is the orchestration platform that allows you to automate all of that and take care of that without having to manually intervene or do those by hand. So what I want to do next is quickly give an introduction, show you what the CircleCI platform looks like, and then we can come back and talk a little bit more about the Orb feature itself. Okay, so what I am showing right now is just an overview, a workflow view of a sample project I'm building. And if you're coming from a Jenkins background or from other CI/CD platforms, you've probably seen something like this, which is just a dependency graph that shows all the jobs in one pipeline and which ones how they relate to each other. So for those who are not familiar with this, just to do a brief overview of vocabulary, when I say workflow, I'm talking about all of this. So this whole view I'm showing right now, this is an entire workflow. And when I say jobs, I'm actually talking about each one of these individual boxes. So these are the individual concerns that you have when you're trying to implement like a DevOps pipeline. So let's say I'm building a project right now and I have to do things like going back again to running my test, doing my linting, doing my deployment. All of those are individual tasks, and we can think of those as individual boxes in this entire workflow. And so one of the things I want to point out from this view is that each one of these is its own execution environment. So in the start infra, you're getting a brand new fresh container that is not contaminated by any data that has been persisted from previous build. Same thing with your build migrator, build image steps. All of these are getting brand new containers to work in. And one of the benefits of having this kind of scenario is that you can configure each one of these environments to do exactly what you need for that particular job. Coming back here, let's say this build image job, for instance, is like CPU intensive and it's running, let's say, yeah, it's running for 25 seconds. And I see the rest of my pipeline is running for 3 seconds, 10 seconds. If I want to minimize how much time this entire pipeline takes, the fact that all of this is running in its own independent environment means I can go into these build steps and actually assign higher, faster, more powerful CPUs to them so that this whole pipeline runs a little bit faster. So what I can do, going back to that scalability conversation we had earlier, is the fact that I can come in here and scale up the nodes for this particular job independently without affecting the rest of the other jobs in the pipeline. One other thing that I wanted to point out here is that just having this view out here also gives you quick overview, just quick insight into what is going on in your pipeline. Right now, that whole work steps that I just walked through in terms of how I can add more CPUs to this set of jobs, that's something that I would have done as an engineer, as a DevOps engineer, if I was trying to optimize the flow of my pipeline. So having this in a visual representation allows you to quickly identify bottlenecks. And if something fails, you also quickly know which job failed and where that failure is. If you're coming from like other platforms, for instance, where you have to go through logs to find out why things fail and dig through those log files to identify the root cause of the failures, at this point, you're already more efficiently on your way to finding the problem in this pipeline and restoring the pipeline to a healthy state, because right away, within a matter of seconds, you can identify where that problem is. Furthermore, on the platform, you can dive in deeper to this one particular job and get more information about the steps that ran in that job. So here, I know that it's my test step that failed, and I can see all the commands that ran as part of that test step, and I also see the one command that triggered, that caused the failure. And so in terms of just being able to restore this and make sure that this starts to pass again, right away, I've already quickly found out where the error is and why I have that error. And one other feature that would help in quickly restoring this to a passing state is this rerun button here. So what this allows you to do is you can rerun this particular job with SSH enabled on the container that ran this job. And so that then enables you to debug this job in live container as it's running, as it's doing those builds. And so if you need to introspect into things like environment variables or check out the file structure on the container, this is a great feature that allows you to quickly do that live while the job itself is running. So at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, well, that's all nice and fancy, but how do you set it up? How do you define the logic and how all of these build steps happen in here? And here, it all happens in a YAML file that you check in to your code repo with that project. And so the YAML file really just contains sections as executors. So this is that execution environment where the build job runs. Like I mentioned earlier, you can so the different execution environments that we support on CircleCI right now are for Mac, Linux, Windows, as well as Docker. And right now for this sample, I'm using the Docker image. And the other part of the configuration that you need to specify are the jobs themselves. So here I have a build job, I have a test job, I have a deploy staging job, and all those jobs are just all the different steps, all the different things you need to do as part of your build pipeline. And one last section I want to show you in the config file is the workflows section. So this is where you get to actually orchestrate the jobs in what order you want them to run. So if you want things to run in parallel, for instance, this is how you set that up. Just have the two of them running, test and build. All of this runs side by side. And here with the requires keyword, what I'm doing here is I'm specifying that I want the deploy staging to depend on the test and the build jobs. And what this means is that the deploy staging is not going to start running unless both the test and the build jobs pass. So at a high level, this is a config file. And what I want to talk about next is the orb feature. And the orbs feature is what allows you to take any chunk of logic from this config file. So let's say this tag Docker image step here. Let's assume that I have a suite of 10 different projects and I use the same step in all of them. Instead of having to rewrite this step in all of my config files, I can templatize this, extract it, write it as this thing on CircleCI we call an orb, check it into the orb registry, and then on those other projects, when I need to do a similar step like tag Docker image, I just import that orb from the orb registry, and I reference this command instead of having to retype it or copy and pasting it into my configuration file. So going back to the presentation a little bit to talk a little bit more about the orbs feature, like I just mentioned, The orbs allows you, so one way to think about orbs itself is just a reusable or shareable package of CircleCI configuration. So that YAML file that I just went through, there's any portion of that YAML file, you can parameterize it, write it as a template, check it into the orb registry, and then reference that orb from any of your other projects that needs a config file. And this really allows you to centralize the management of logic across multiple projects, and also allows you to just roll out changes in a more efficient and better way, as opposed to having to go across all these files and doing your copy and pasting. So going back again to that whole ideas of executors, the environment within which you're going to be running those build jobs, that is something you can templatize and check in as an orb. The individual jobs themselves, the deploy step, the building step, the linting step, those are all steps of logic you can write, customize, and templatize as orbs and share with all the other team members in your company. Any part of the YAML file, both the commands, the executors, the jobs, we can even templatize an entire configuration and then issue that to different teams and then just have them populate the specific variables that apply to their own project. So coming from the perspective of being able to reuse logic across teams, Orbs is a powerful feature that allows you to just share logic, centrally manage them, and not have to re-implement things over and over again. And one of the benefits of having this feature on our platform is that we can go out ahead of time, work and collaborate with our technology partners like Katalon, for instance, and then we write these orbs for our customers, like our technology partners and us. We coordinate together, we present these orbs, and then we check them into our orb registry. And then our users who need the integrations with, let's say, Katalon, for instance, you don't need to rewrite all of that integration from scratch. You can just visit our orb registry, pull down, reference the Katalon orb, check out the specific logic you need, and then reference those commands within your file. So all of that is just to say that when you're using CircleCI and if you're trying to integrate with any third-party tool, before you start writing the logic yourself, I typically recommend to customers to go to the orb registry, search for that tool, and find out to see first if we've already written an orb for it. So if you need more information about orbs or just wanted to read more documentation, if you have questions, here are a few links with some additional resources and content to just give you a little bit more guidance on orbs. And if you have any more questions about what I've spoken about so far, feel free to drop them in the GoToWebinar session and we'll address those at the end. But at this point, I'm going to be passing the controls over to Young, who's going to be giving us a brief introduction into Katalon and the integration with CircleCI. So Young, over to you.
Great, thanks, Sam. Great. So, Sam, are you seeing my slide and hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, and
Okay.
the slide is still loading. Let me here, and okay, I see your slide now.
Okay, cool. Cool. So thanks, Sam, for the great sharing. Hello, everyone. I'm Young now. If you find my name hard to spell, so it's you can call me Young. I'm the VP of product in Katalon. So right now I'm in charge of the development of Katalon Studio. So for my section today, first of all, I want to have a quick introductions about Katalon and Katalon Studio. We have with a Katalon that useful from quick introduction. So see the second consecutive year that Katalon Studio won the award from Gartner. So at we name at the best test automation software in 2020. We had on in 2000. So you skim the review of Gartner, the guy will have the solutions we offer. So I have to say that all review of customer on Gartner are positive instead of like positive there are things we need to do as well. But if we have this for customer, and so we're able to launch and useful to our community. Right. So with Katalon, we aim to deliver an all-in-one solution, not only a content tool. So other than Katalon Studio, we also have different tool set that have cover different needs throughout the automation testing pipeline. So for example, we will have a Katalon this reporting analytics tool. We have you to investigate and analyze testing result in order to make a decision. So also for many types of applications, such as have mobile API and this is we just provided this capability in the end of last year, but so far we have many customers who intensively use desktop testing and also give us great feedback as well. With Katalon solution, we also cover a wide range of testing environment, such as the latest um, Android, iOS, with a popular browser like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, IE, and we also cover the new X browser on Chromium. So one of the things that make it have a reach out to a lot of users, because we have we cover many operating systems that have user develop their testing. So we not only support Windows, which is very popular, we also support Macs and like Linux. So for this, user can leverage their resource easily, which means that they can use the operating system that they're familiar with, and they don't need to add more machines or need to switch to the operating system in order to adopt without testing solution. And moreover, for Katalon Studio, we also available on container environments such as Docker. We are available on AWS, Amazon Web Services as well, such as Azure DevOps. So this is the core foundation for enable to work on cloud DevOps and enable remote working transformation. So next, who should be looking for Katalon Studio as the testing solution? So I believe that if first of all, if you haven't had applied any automated testing solution yet, so Katalon might be a good fit for you. So if you many of the customer in Gartner appreciate us for being very easy to adopt. So the team can easily get used to with Katalon Studio, even though they don't have much programming skill and they don't have the capability for scripting, but they can still easily to start using Katalon Studio. And moreover, for Katalon Studio, we not only allow user to easily adopt with automation testing, we also enable them to transform into real automations. So a very typical persona of the team of our customer is in the team they have one automation expert, and they have like 5 to 10 manual tester or automation engineer, but they kept newbie. So for the automation expert, they can start using Katalon Studio and prepare the platform. And the manual tester can leverage all the framework and stuff that the expert create, and they can create test case with Katalon Studio. Even they don't need any programming skill. But gradually, when they working with Katalon Studio, they will learn how to script, and they will eventually become a real automation tester. Secondly, if you or your company already have like open source solutions such as Selenium and Appium, but you're not happy with that solution anymore because it not scalable, Scalable means difficult for using in many projects because the lack of programming skill, or difficult to deploy to use in a lot of different type applications, or difficult to make it rulable in many processes. So with if you in that cases, I believe that Katalon Studio also is an option that you should consider. So with Katalon Studio, we build on top of Selenium and Appium. So it means that we absolutely, I mean, completely compatible with all the stuff that you have already with Selenium and Appium, with all the setup, the CI, and all the infrastructure that you have already, which means that we can easily to plug Katalon Studio into your ecosystem. And secondly, the way that you can scale your project with the only one solution that I presented already, and help you to deal with the scalability problem that you have. So moreover, we also recently we have a new Selenium migration features in the 7.4 version. So with the features, it allow you to utilize all the test step that you have in Selenium. So you don't need to start from scratch, but you can leverage on the stuff that you're doing already. So even this is not the main topic that I will cover today, but we have an upcoming webinar. So we talk more about this, and we'll get more these features. And last but not least, if you already use a commercial automation testing solution, but you're really not happy with that because maybe the cost is too much. So I had to say that because we had a lot of customers come to us and they had the same problem. So for Katalon Studio, we believe that we have the comparable feature shares, comparable outcome with our competitor, but the customer only needs to have a smaller investment to make it work. So in terms of cost and both efforts. So if you find yourself in those cases, I think Katalon Studio is something that you should consider at your next automation solution. Okay, so that's all for the quick introduction. Now I will go to the main part today with the Katalon CircleCI integration with Orbs. Okay, so before jumping to the Orbs, I just want to re-emphasize the point that I mentioned already, that with Katalon, we are not an automation testing tool, but we also, so the Katalon platform and ecosystem with the IDE, with the runtime engine, and with the plugin with CI/CD tool, not only local CI/CD tool like Jenkins, Bamboo, but also like Cloud CI, like Azure DevOps or CircleCI, of course. And we have the our availability on Docker platform, on Amazon Web Services. It also the core foundation for Katalon to bring the automation testing process to Cloud DevOps and enable remote working is something that we managed to use during this meantime. Okay, so for right now, I will show an example for myself that how I can set up things to make me work from remote. Because before that, I've used local Jenkins and deploy application and run within my company. But then we need to work from home for the reason that we know already. So it's difficult to access to all the stuff at the time. So I need to switch the way that I do it, bring all the things to cloud instead of put it in the local internet of my company. And with Katalon and CircleCI really play a core part here for making it work. So for my test script, I put it on GitHub. I think this is very familiar. So for the machine that I'm using for develop my test key, I have it on Amazon Web Services. For CI/CD, instead of using local CI, I use CircleCI. So of course, I have like the whole process of CI/CDs on cloud. With my application under test, this is the service that I use, like is kind of a free service, but help you to deploy your application to cloud. So before that, I have local server to deal with it, but now I need to figure out a way to have this in the cloud to make on the pipeline work. And of course, my test execution will have to happen on cloud with Docker inside CircleCI. Right. So I will show you quick demo. So this is my project. Um, I put my tab project inside my main projects. So this is for making sure that the version of the tab project of the main of application and tab is aligned. And I have my CircleCI config. So this is Sam has shown us already. So for me, I have a workflow with 3 steps: build, test, and deploy. Okay. For machines, I have, so recently we have like Katalon Studio transactions on Amazon Web Service. This is the console of Amazon Web Services, and you can buy Katalon Studio in the marketplace. You can launch the server here, and I use and work normally. Okay. Oh, this is actually the pipeline I set up. I could try to run it. And so actually I said already, so technically I don't need to have anything on my locations for making all this things work, except for the internet. I still need the internet to on the stuff. But then all the things that I need here is on cloud, which means that I can on any machines or from anywhere. Okay, like give you example about the pipeline. This is projects, and I try to update some code. For example, I go to the login view and I make some adjustment. This is for, let's say, developer, update some code. Okay, let me see. Okay, so if you trigger a build on CircleCI right after the developer make change on the code. So for my workflow here is not as complex as what Sam has shown. I have 3 steps: build, test, and deploy. And then of course this depend on each other, which means that if one step fail, it cannot move further. It is to make sure that if the test fail, we cannot deploy our application to the next environment that we plan to. Okay. Success with the first build. Actually, this I set up to make the test to deploy to a staging servers, which is this one. Yep, this is the staging servers that it had been deployed to. And now you run the test on the server. So if my build fail, the test process wouldn't be running, of course. So I will have quick feedback from the build, and I don't need to move ahead and let everything is good. Go to the step to execute Katalon Studio. Oh, it fell. Okay, it say that activation failed. Please make sure you use a valid license. Oh, it seems that I have updated my API key, but I haven't reflect the update on this. So that's why I have so many fail. And as I shared already. So if the test fail, I will not deploy the application to the environment, next environment. Okay. So basically, everything I set up here, I think is okay, but I haven't used the op yet. So I have said that before using the op, before we have the ops, I have to do all the stuff by myself. That's why there are some problem that I might have for my process, and one of the problem make me have a fail build, and I just show already. So if we don't have the ops, so which means that we need to take care on the deployment and maintenance work by our own. So it means I need to set up all the integrations by myself. Which also means that I have to bear the technical risk and the problem fail I see already, and the problem with security compliant as well. So that's why we had ops. So we work with CircleCI to have this op, and this is partner op, which means that we have verification from CircleCI that it works. So this is something that I will show you next. Okay, with the ops is something that the core component of the op. I believe that Sam shared with it already. So we need to make sure the versions of CircleCI 2.1. We need to declare the ops, and then we just use the ops. Okay. Couple things that we need to make sure. First of all, is about API key. So it's something that I think is a security and a lot of problem I introduced with my old approach. So let me share with the old way that I do the integrations. My CircleCI, I can fit. So for test execution with Katalon Studio, I put my API key here. It's something that I need to do because I need it for execution. But then it's going to introduce a lot of problem here as we put the API key here. So first of all, as you see already, I have new API key. I haven't updated it yet, so it make me meet the build fail. But let's say if I have not only one application, I have maybe 10, or I need to manage 20 applications. So when I have something to update, I need to go through all the 10 or 20 applications to make the update. I think this is not really good things for me to consider. And secondly, I need to put the information here, which means is exposed to the developer, because the config YAML file is a part of the application. So it means the developer, they might able to access to the API key, but actually they don't need to, because the job is to develop the test, and for the execution it happen on the system, which is the key. But then with the ops, we really fix this problem, because with the op we have the capability to config the API key right in the CircleCI system. This is for centrally control the API keys, and also make it like transparent to developer, and only the people who set up the whole CI/CD system can access the API keys and use it. So this is the key thing that we have with the ops. And secondly, we also have to put this security option to yet. So technically, we are partner op with CircleCI, but right now only the op developed by CircleCI have the capability to bypass on the security check-in. So anyway, we need to put the yes here for making the op work. Okay, so I have another demo with the op. So this is my project with the op. It's the same. It's nearly the same with the config I had with the op. One thing different here is that I use the op in the testing stack. So the you can see there are different ways that we can configure CircleCI with the workflow. Right here, I put my job directly into the workflow. Is another way that we can configure things to run. And I don't need to specify any API key or things like that. I can also specify the version of Studio that I want to run as well. Okay, and I try it again with the. Now I will make some update to the nearly the same that I did before. I go to the local homepage. Login button. Okay, and I double check this. All right, so when you commit the code, the job on CircleCI will be triggered immediately. And I hope this work with the API key that I set up already. Okay, the first build passed. This means that the production, the application had been deployed to the staging environment. Wait several seconds to see if it works or not. Right. Since the activation phase had been gone through, I'm gonna go ahead with the execution. So you can see the detail here. So that process has been passed. Now I have to deploy application to production. Okay, so it works. So now with the ops, it make me easier to configure the stuff and I and also some I'm on